All right, let's dive in. Today, we're talking about one of the most powerful genres in all of storytelling, science fiction. We're going to go on this incredible journey, all the way from ancient myths to a force that, and I mean this literally, shapes the world we live in right now. So, where does a story like that even begin? Well, it all starts with a question. See, when you think about spaceships or robots or time machines, your mind probably jumps to modern movies or books, right? But the ideas behind them? Oh, they are much, much older. That simple, nagging question of what if, that's one of the most ancient human impulses there is, and that's exactly where our story kicks off. So to find the real origin of sci-fi, we have to go way back. I'm talking about a time before science, as we know it, was even a thing. This is where humanity's imagination really first took flight. And here's the roadmap for our journey. We're going to start in ancient times. Then we'll witness the birth of the genre with Frankenstein. After that, we'll meet the two visionaries who really gave it direction, explore its explosive golden age in the 20th century, and finally bring it all home to see how it's still shaping our world today. But thousands of years, people looked up at the stars with this deep, powerful curiosity. And they told stories. Stories of gods and flying chariots and heroes with magical weapons. You can find these early hints in the Vimanas, these incredible flying palaces described in ancient Indian texts. Or even in the writings of a Greek guy named Lucian, who imagined a trip to the moon all the way back in the 2nd century. Now, they didn't call it science fiction, of course, but this speculative thinking, this was it. These were the very first seeds being planted. For centuries, these were just myths, you know? But then the Renaissance happened, this absolute explosion of scientific discovery. The world was changing fast, and storytellers started mixing these amazing new scientific ideas with their imagination. The real turning point, the big bang for the genre, came in 1818 with Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. And this was so much more than a monster story. It was the first time a writer took a scientific concept, the idea of reanimating life, and used it to ask a really deep ethical question. Just because we can do something with science, should we? That single question, that idea of scientific responsibility, became the foundation of modern science fiction as we know it. Okay, so the foundation was laid, but the genre still needed direction, a sense of purpose. And after Mary Shelley, two absolute giants came along who would take this new kind of story and forge the identity it has today. On one side, you've got Jules Verne. He was the ultimate optimist. He looked at all the industrial progress happening around him and saw science as this amazing tool for grand adventure. Think 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea or From the Earth to the Moon. He was the prophet of invention. But then, on the other side, you have H.G. Wells. He was writing a little later, and he was more of a cautionary voice, the prophet of ideas. He used science to explore our fears, our anxieties, in stories like The Time Machine and The War of the Worlds, really making us question where society was headed. So you see, together, these two, the adventurer and the philosopher, they basically created the two great pillars of the genre. One celebrates what we can achieve, and the other warns us about what we might become. And that tension, that push and pull, is still right at the heart of sci-fi today. All right, let's jump forward into the 20th century. This is when science fiction just absolutely exploded into the mainstream. It became a huge cultural force. And you gotta ask, why then? Well, it's because for the very first time, reality was actually starting to catch up with fiction. I mean, just think about it for a second. The world went from candlelight to electricity everywhere. We weren't just imagining rockets, we were building them. Rockets that could actually escape gravity. We unlocked the power of the atom. We launched satellites into orbit. These weren't just wild fantasies anymore. This was stuff you'd see in the headlines. And it created a whole new set of hopes, and maybe more importantly, a whole new set of very real fears for people to think about. And this new reality just fueled this incredible wave of creativity. Writers like Isaac Asimov, Arthur C. Clarke, Ray Bradbury, they took these real-world advancements and ran with them. They didn't just write stories about robots. They asked what it means to be human in an age of AI. They didn't just write about spaceships. They explored the awe and the loneliness of our place in the universe. It was an era of gigantic ideas for an age of massive, massive change. And that is the key thing to take away from this whole era. The genre grew up. It wasn't just about cool adventures or strange monsters anymore. It became a mirror that society could hold up to itself, reflecting both our biggest dreams and our deepest fears about the future we were actually building. So that brings us pretty much to today. Because science fiction isn't just a bunch of stories we tell ourselves. It has a real, tangible legacy. It It has actively shaped our world in ways you might not even realize. The impact is just immense. It's not just that Jules Verne inspired people to build real submarines, or that the communicators in Star Trek basically gave us the idea for the flip phone. It goes deeper. Science fiction gives us a language to even talk about the future. It's like a sandbox where we can play out the consequences of nuclear war or unchecked AI without the real-world risk. It sparks curiosity in young people, and crucially, it keeps that vital bridge between the hard logic of science and the limitless power of our imagination strong. So when you really step back and look at it, science fiction isn't just a section in the library or a category on Netflix. It's a living, breathing conversation that humanity has been having with itself for centuries. A conversation about where we've been, where we are right now, and where in the world we're going next. And in the end, that's its greatest power. It's a tool that lets us practice for the future, a tool that lets us challenge the way things are in the present, and a tool that helps us appreciate the single most powerful force in the universe, human curiosity. So, the only question left is, what future are we going to imagine next?